right, let's jump right into this explainer. I want you to picture a scenario that might feel just a little too familiar. So picture a product manager who just shipped a massive, long-awaited new feature. You know the drill. You've updated the roadmap, you sent that celebratory Slack message to the engineering team, you proudly drag that Jira ticket to done, wipe your hands, and close your laptop. You probably think your job is over, right? You believe that if you just build a great product, it's magically going to sell itself. But out in the field, totally away from your dashboard, something very different is happening.
And here is the brutal reality. If your sales team is out there completely fumbling the pitch, your launch just flat out died in the pipeline. It literally does not matter how beautiful your code is or how perfectly it aligns with your quarterly OKRs. A product launch can and absolutely will stall if your sales team isn't prepared to actually talk about it in customer conversations. Seeing that big red no revenue stamp, that is the ultimate consequence of thinking your job ends at deployment. And that brings us to what we call the enablement void. This is that dangerous gap where product managers treat sales enablement as somebody else's job. Usually they think, oh, that belongs to product marketing. But actually, scratch that. You, the PM, are the one who truly understands the deep nuances of those user pain points. You own the strategy. If you just toss some dense technical changelog over the wall and expect a sales rep to magically translate it into excitement and revenue, you are setting the whole launch up for failure. Without your expertise guiding that narrative, the product is absolutely going to underperform. Time for a quick, maybe slightly painful reality check. If I picked up my phone right this second and called your top account executive and asked them exactly why a customer should buy your newest feature instead of your competitors, could they give me a compelling answer? Look, if you're hesitating even a little bit to answer this right now, your product strategy is actively bleeding revenue. So, let's get into Section 1, product versus sales, and this massive alignment gap. You can totally see the natural friction here, right? On one side, you've got the product team aiming for this grand, long-term strategy and vision. And on the other side, you've got the sales team chasing short-term wins, just trying to close out their quarter. Because you haven't enabled them, they end up in this constant state of conflict. When reps don't get the true value of what you just built, they panic. They default to what they do know, selling custom features that definitely don't exist, pitching completely wrong use cases, or offering massive discounts just to get a signature on the dotted line. It is classic feature dumping. Here's a fun fact for you. Handing a 50-page, highly technical API documentation packet to an account executive and saying, hey, go get them, is absolutely not enablement. Honestly, you might as well just throw that documentation straight into a paper shredder. It's not going to help them close a single deal. You simply cannot blame sales for not getting it when the product fails to sell if you didn't give them the right ammunition. As the saying goes, just because something is a priority for the product team does not automatically mean it becomes a priority for sales. If you don't arm your frontline revenue generators with the exact narrative they need to win, your brilliant roadmap is pretty much useless. You have to bridge that gap yourself. Moving right along to Section 2, owning the narrative and actually arming your front line. To convert that initial interest into actual revenue and turn all that internal friction into a real partnership, product managers have got to step up. You need to be providing clearly defined buyer personas, market problems, and specific training on these 4 pillars. Your sales team absolutely must understand the specific problem the product solves, the targeted value prop, exactly when in the conversation to introduce it, and exactly how it stacks up against the competition. When you do this, you make their job vastly easier. Check out the stark contrast in communication here. A siloed PM goes to sales and complains, our new algorithm is 20% faster. I have no idea why you can't close the deal. It is objectively better. But guess what? The buyer doesn't care about your code. Now look at the enablement PM. They say, hey, that 20% speed increase, it saves our target persona 2 hours of manual reconciliation a week. Boom. They just translated a highly technical feature into undeniable business value. And that translation? It yields immediate results. When you arm your sales team with a simple, punchy one-pager showing an exact ROI calculation, like 2 hours of manual reconciliation saved every single week, plus a script to counter the competitor's pricing, you stop losing deals to confusion. You start closing massive enterprise deals because you finally gave them the right narrative. All right, Section 3, let's look at the enablement playbook and get into some tactical execution. These 3 steps are your high-level roadmap. They are essentially the magical weapons you need to hand to your sales team so they can go out and slay the market competition. We're going to break each one down so you know exactly how to execute this week.
Tactic 1. Building real-world assets. And yeah, this means you have to go way beyond basic boring feature lists. This means working cross-functionally to deliver collateral that shows actual value in real-world applications. You need to help create compelling case studies, presentation decks, and those concise one-pagers we just talked about that actually help the team close deals on the floor.
Moving to tactic 2. Look, as the PM, you know the market better than anyone else in the building. So you must proactively share those common market pain points with the sales team and clearly articulate how your product solves them. When you give them this context, they don't freeze up on a call. They can build effective scripts and proactively think ahead to confidently counter customer concerns before they even become deal breakers. And finally, tactic 3. Enablement is not a one-way street where you just hand down rules from the mountaintop. Your sales team is literally your frontline intelligence agency. You have to create a two-way feedback loop to capture their continuous insights on customer needs, recurring objections, and strict buying criteria. Then, you take all that incredibly valuable ground-level intelligence and use it to refine your next roadmap cycle. Okay, bringing us to section 4. Time for a final reality check. Let's look at your calendar. Seriously, pull up your calendar for next week right now. Do you have even a single block of time dedicated to sitting with your sales team, training them, or listening to their calls? Because if the answer is no, well, your product strategy is in serious danger. It really is that simple. It all boils down to this exact equation: deep product knowledge combined with the ability to translate that into actual business value, multiplied by active sales collaboration equals revenue growth. A great product that your sales team doesn't know how to sell, that's effectively a dead product. You've got to stop viewing enablement as someone else's problem and step up. I want to leave you with one final, kind of funny but honestly painful question to think about. What is the absolute most ridiculous feature your sales team ever promised a customer just to close a deal? All because they didn't have the right narrative. Think about that for a second. Let it be a reminder to stop launching to crickets, start translating your technical features into undeniable value, and start actually enabling your team. Keep building for sure, but more importantly, start enabling. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer.